And our next speaker, Brad Krauskopf, is about to come up. He's the CEO and the founder of the Australian Hub, and he's going to talk to us about what that might look like to help us imagine how we could work in the future. He's, unlike our previous people, he's a big fan of buzzwords. And one of the coolest ones I heard him mention was free-range working. So to explain what the hell that might be, and give us an insight into how kids might work in the future, Brad Krauskopf.
Hi there. Thanks for the invite to come along and talk today. So, what's this one? Okie dokie. So, the future of work right here. So, unlike your child there, this person here, Edith, is the daughter of a good friend of mine. Her birth was announced on Facebook and on Twitter, as is fast becoming the norm. So right from the very word go, Edith was born into a many-to-many world. It's very different to the one-to-one world that Gen Xers were born into, and very different to the one-to-many world that Gen Y was. This is somebody who, from birth, is going to be thinking across countries, across different companies. Quite possibly at any one time, Edith's probably going to be working for several different companies at the same time. If she decides to maybe become a flight attendant in her 20s in order to see the world, there's a good chance she'll be able to do that on a spaceship. Her career is also going to last for 100 years. So her career is literally going to be double the length of my career. So all the different possibilities that are going to come across Edith in her life, and I guess where I'll fast forward this out to is, if we think about Edith, what are the spaces that we are going to create for Edith to work in over her 100-year lifespan? Edith's mind will have been hardwired to think that nothing is impossible. Everything to her will be possible in this many-to-many world that she's moved into. Gen Y's on the left there, the one-to-many, and then this many-to-many world of Edith. I still haven't quite figured out how to describe the diagram on the right there, but I think what it is I am just simply not hardwired to think in this way. Now in 2025, this is not too far from now, only 11 years from now, 75% of the workforce is going to be Gen Z and Gen Y. Only 7% of Gen Ys that you ask at the moment want to work for a Fortune 500 company. So that is a hell of a lot of talent that is not sitting in the traditional workplaces that we know today. So Gen Y, big kicker here came when we had the global financial crisis, huge influx of people into what became known as the freelance economy. This was a movement of the digital generation, people getting out there, getting the laptop, finding their independence and going and working. And we saw a huge movement, and up to now 40% of the American workforce is now contracting. You've got companies like IBM where they're moving 50% of their workforce off full-time employment contracts and onto part-time and contract and temp. So the concept of that full-time job is just simply not there. And then through Gen Y, we saw the emergence of the freelancer. When we look at Gen Z, this is when I see that we're actually going to see the emergence of what I coined the term of the free-range worker. So this person has never known the single employer-employee relationship. They move from working for themselves to working for somebody else in a very liquid fashion. And at any one point in time, they may have 5, 6 of these jobs. I have a member in at the Hub who's managed for the last 10 years to essentially travel around the world and just simply check in and work for a few hours a day and then go on to the next job. No fixed address. Gen Z is also going to have entered the workforce in 2020 to a radically changed environment. You know, the planet will have gone past the point of no return in many respects. Their full-time employment options will be limited. They'll be competing globally with people all across the world. And when only 7% of them want to work in a large company, they're going to be competing against a significantly greater number of people for those roles. So what they do and how they look at work will be very different to the way that we do. This is what I believe their future workplace will probably look like. Actually, this is from your UTS study. I did note that down there. So look, people are going to be working at many different locations. And when we build up those spaces, if you think in an anywhere working world, why are you going to go somewhere to work? It is definitely not going to be just because of the space. It's going to be because of the community that has been built around that space. And anybody who is looking to create a space that is not a learning community, I guarantee to you that nobody is going to be going to work for you. So how do we see that people are going to organise? We see that we'll be getting the collaborative. There's a buzzword for you and a nice little nuance on the collaborative. Really interesting thing about people as soon as they get their independence, and what we saw with freelancers, is the very first thing they did was start to organise. So what we literally even had, and it seems like a paradox, but the Freelancers Union was one of the first things that emerged. The other thing that emerged was co-working communities. So very quickly, as everybody went into freelancing, they started to look for ways to get that competitive edge, to continue their learning, and you saw this huge growth in co-working communities around the world. When you look at a Hub Australia, now imagine that this wasn't a co-working community, and I was describing to you a company that staff a huge diversity across 50 different industry disciplines, an exact 50-50 male-female split, and then people coming in every single day because they want to, as opposed to because they have to. So what we see is the emergence of a collaborative, and this is how Gen Z, the free-range worker, is going to be choosing to work. So what would I do? Practice, practice, practice collaborating using technology. Do get your kids onto the different technologies that are there and learn how they're going to use them. I'll jump to the last one. Grab them a 3D printer and watch to see how they make the impossible possible, and how they look at how in a distributed world we will work in a completely different, untethered fashion. Look forward to seeing how the free range worker comes to play. Thank you.